right, so welcome back to episode 2 of our adventure. The G-Wagon build continues. Now, it's bright and early. We're coming out of winter. Things are starting to warm up a little bit, and I'm going to shift gears a little bit. I'm going to step away from making sparks, and I'm going to take advantage of this warmer weather we're getting here. If I look outside, it's going to be nice today. So I'm going to actually start in a little bit on the graphic wraps. I ordered some bright green material. I'm going to be wrapping the G-Wagon in that, and I'm going to start in on that today. So that's part of our adventure. Then we'll get back into the finishing off that roll cage, a couple other things that we're working on, throw it all together for episode 2 of the G-Wagon build. Here we go. Oh, heck yeah, 55 degrees. That's darn near a heat wave. So, early morning, sun's coming up. Let's get to wrapping. Well, holy crap storms. It's entering the last week in February, and June's around the corner. I'm starting to throw some of the graphic wraps on the rest of the vehicle. I'm not super good at this stuff, but hey, a little patience and working it out, getting the bubbles gone, it comes along. I'll post up another picture when I have this little corner done. And just like I said, there it is, all done. Window is back in, and it may not be professional, but hey, it's good enough for Baja. And now, moving on to the next door. Getting a little closer. And there it is, done up. One more panel.
Marshall, what the hell are you doing on my good kitchen table?
Well, more importantly, what the heck are you doing with my good camera? Well, it's just so darn cold outside. Right now, it's 22 degrees outside. Way too cold to be doing a wrap out in the shop, so I just commandeered the kitchen table.
But dang it, I've always told you no car parts in the house.
Well, sorry. Yeah, well, so I totally got busted. Mel caught me, that's for darn sure. But anyway, I've been throwing the wrap on. This is the first piece that I've done in completion. And I must say, it looks rocking. So, now I just have the rest of the car. All right, it's official. We've got a number. So, last night I sat on the computer and I drew up some graphics for the identification. Now, SCORE has a lot of rules and regulations, which is kind of goofy as far as they have to be certain colors and certain sizes, and this year they kind of dialed it back a little bit, but we're official. Got us our official assigned numbers for this upcoming season, and if I could only get it started, kind of right about there. Kind of stoked. Officially, Team 8103. And boom, just like that, we are now official. All right, so we're back at it. And I know sometimes it seems like a bounce around on these projects, but I got to take advantage of the warmer weather. Days warm up, I can do things like the graphics. It gets cold, I lock myself into the shop and make sparks. But speaking of making sparks, I got to get back to it, get this roll cage finished off and a couple of the other things that we were working on. So that's where we're headed, back to the shop. And this is my old hand pipe bender. Now, I much prefer to use the computerized version, much cleaner, much more accurate. However, sometimes you just need to make a small, simple bend, and this answers that. It's easy to set up, variety of sizes, just do it by eye. Hey, I just need a right angle bend in here or 45 in that. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So Jeff, my co-driver, he said, hey, we can put a grab handle on the passenger side. It's something to hold on to when you're trying to work with radios. Just give your hand a place to go. And so sure, so I took a piece of 1-inch DOM and threw it on the pipe bender, and it just bent this little shape. Didn't need to be accurate, just needed to be a place to throw your hand. As we're moving along, made a couple more brackets here. This is going to be for our Stella device, and that's the tracking unit the race officials require that you carry in the vehicle. It's not going to look like this when it gets welded in. You visualize it in a flat piece, but then I'm going to bend it both here, and that'll straddle the roll cage. The other two up here, that is going to be for our intercom system. I'm going to go ahead and get these bent, and then we'll get them welded in. All right, so now we have that same part. I threw a couple of 90 degrees bends in it, and you can see it's just going to sit on the roll cage like that, and I'll go ahead and weld that on. Now, after all is said and done, that is one complicated looking bracket, but when you take it on one little piece at a time, it all comes together. So next thing, I'm going to go ahead and put some paint on here, except for the very ends. I'll go ahead and weld it in, and then I can paint the ends up. It'll be easier to paint when it's outside of the car. Oh, hey, wow. So what I've got going today is, this is a little panel that goes up on the headliner, and it's got some fancy little Dan buttons, your dome lights things, but most importantly, it's got this one right here. How cool will it be to have a Baja race car that has a functioning electric sunroof? So I'm going to go ahead and make a bracket for this, and how I'm doing that is, first I'm starting off by lining the whole thing with tape. I'm going to peel the tape off, lay it down, create a template, cut it out on the plasma cutter, and then bolt it in. So that's my project for, well, this morning anyway. Sunroof in the Race G. Going to be hot. All right, well, this is kind of a goofy way I've come up with doing this. I could put it on the table, put my tape template on the table, and draw around it with a stylus, or I stick it to the screen, and I'm going to tell it to draw a line, say from here to here to here. So now that I have it drawn, I'm going to go ahead and pull off my tape template, and there you can see I have the shape, and then I will just scale it down till it's the right size. And okay, now I've scaled it, and this line here, I can push this button F10, that's going to tell me it's 5.7 inches tall, and that's exactly what I need it to be. So perfect. I know this is my correct shape. It's to scale. I tell it where I want to pierce or start making the part there, and with that, this part is then good to go. So, well, as you can see, I've got it up here. I'm just kind of finishing getting it bolted into place, but I got it cut out, threw some white paint on it. Of course, the all-important dimple dies going in, but here goes, maiden voyage, to see if this thing's going to work for us. And oh, just like that, we got power sunroof. And I think it'd be nice also, we've got our dome lights out on the race course at night. Those might come in handy. So as you can see, it's starting to come along pretty good. I'm really happy with the project, but we still have a lot of stuff to do. June's right around the corner, and the clock just keeps on ticking. So I'm going to spin this camera around. The last you saw, we were creating this bracket here, and this is holding all of our electronics. I'm still working on getting everything wired in. Our intercom, our radio, navigation system, and then the main control panel is going to go right here that harnesses all of the other peripheral electronics. Still lots to do. If you remember back, we made these little Nerf sliders off the side of the vehicle. Time to go ahead and finish them up. So what I'm doing here is I've made a cardboard template, and I'm going to make one for the front half and one for the back half. I'm going to go lay them out in the computer and cut these out, throw some dimple dies in them. And just that simple, I've got it transferred to the plasma table computer, getting ready for cut. Just that quickly, we've got a part. And there you have it, dimple dies. Kind of like the way they look. There it is, from cardboard template to actual part in probably less than 10 minutes. Now, with the part done, time for a test fit. And All right, just like that. I'm thinking that's looking perfect. And there is the backside segment finished up. Let's go test fit this one. And well, there it is. It's almost like it's supposed to go there. In, mating up with the front piece. So finished getting them cleaned up. Next step is going to go ahead and weld them on and then get them painted. All right, last weld here. All right, and just like that, we're all done. So I've got this side done. Going to do a little final grind on it and then go around and get the other side. After that, it's paint, and this project is done. Yep. All right, final step, throwing a little paint. I like using the textured black paint. It looks good. Made my little Nerf slider bars. Fend off all of those rocks and evil that Baja's got to throw at us. So my project of the day is now done. All right, so what we have going today is I'm going to build a new center console. I'm going to make it out of some 16th inch aluminum. Now, what I have here is the kind of the plastic insert. You can see it's super flimsy. This was inside the stock center console. Now, the stock one, of course, had this armrest that came way up here and a bunch of other peripheral crap I don't need for Baja, so I'm streamlining it. So what I've done here, I've covered the entire thing with some masking tape, just cutting out the holes that I want and nothing else. And a couple of notes here for where I need to bend it. I'm going to peel all this tape off. I'm going to lay it flat on the sheet metal. That's going to give me a good starting point. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it out, and then I can bend it up.
Your favorite audio engineer reminds you, use your microphones, kids. Otherwise, this could be you.
Take 47. Okay, so we've peeled off the tape. We did throw a couple of bends in it, and this is getting pretty close to the shape we were looking at. Still has this white protective on it, but you can see it is aluminum underneath that. So we're going to make an insert here, weld those in, test fit it, make probably a few more adjustments, and we should have this one in the bag. All right, we're just finishing up a little bit of the aluminum work on our new center console. A couple of things left to do. We're going to throw a couple of switches, things like that, some mounting holes, and we'll have this thing in. And just like that, we've got it done. So took the opportunity to throw a little bit of our green wrap on. It matches the rest of the car. Of course, we have the elusive or exclusive No Zombie decal. Our couple of buttons we put inside, some rocker switch protectors. Let's go throw it in the vehicle, see what it looks like. Well, I had so much fun playing with that aluminum console, I decided to make myself an oil rack. Go on the back door of the G and laid it out on the plasma cutter, pop rivets, and a few minutes later we had this nice oil rack. From the back of the vehicle, back around to the front. Time for a skid plate. Some 6061 T6 aluminum into the milling machine, pop some holes, clean up the edges with the router, a bend or two, and it's ready to bolt on. Then when I look at it, I say, hey, I need to cover those holes. Put some mesh in there to keep the sticks, the rocks from damaging my oil cooler. And just like that, we're back at it. Now, I do apologize. I know the sound quality just went, ew, because I broke my microphone. Anyways, I'm just talking directly into my iPad, recording it like that. I apologize, but hey, got another one on order. So I've got a couple of things going here I wanted to share. First off, I've seen on some of the chat rooms that these shock mounts, the stock piece of the shock mount, if they get hammered on enough, they can actually snap right off of the frame member here. So I've made these gusset plates up, welded them in, and there's not just the one that you see here. There's 3 more like it behind it to kind of go across the whole top of the spring mount. So adds a lot more strength. That's what I've got going here because I don't want to lose a shock in the middle of the race. Secondly, the reservoirs, I'm mounting inside the vehicle up on the roll cage, and to get the reservoir through the hole without disconnecting and burping all my oil out, I just cut a 3-inch hole. To make up for the difference, I've made a couple of these spacers. Now by using 2 of these together, it's going to go ahead and completely fill in that gap. So hopefully you can see what we're doing here. and they ying off of each other's yang, and just like that, I will then bolt them into place, and that covers up the hole. So that's what we've got going today. Probably back on the front end tomorrow. Still back in the shop again today. Weird times, COVID-19, things shut down, a lot of time on our hands, but here, poof, all of a sudden I got a lot more time on my hands than I needed to. But I still got things to do to get this thing ready for, we'll say next year. Anyway, so what we've got going is I've got all the lift, all the suspension and good stuff like that in it, and today we're going to be adding, let me grab one for you. It's called a caster correction bushing. You'd say it's an eccentric bushing that well, you put in there, and what that's going to do, because the suspension swings on radius arms, as you raise the suspension, you also change both the pinion angle and the caster angle. Most vehicles, that caster angle is set back about 7 degrees, and that makes the steering nice and plush. As soon as you raise it, you change that caster angle back to almost 0, makes it steer like a wheelbarrow. This is going to fix that. Coming up now, caster correction bushings. And this is where those caster bushings are going to go. They're replacing the bushings here. I got to pull some nuts and bolts, pretty straightforward. Pop these out. Those are sure going to give up a fight. They've been in there for a whole long time, rusted in place. I'm going to pop those out and put our caster correction bushings in. It took probably a half hour or more, but finally got the radius arms off and going to get them cleaned up, get those bearings pushed out, and keep moving forward. All right, let's go ahead and press these on out. All right, one out, just like magic. I think I've got them aligned right there. So once again, here's the studs in the stock location. Locations are there, and we drop this one on, and now my center to center distance is based off the existing ones. And if I look at this end here, it might be hard to see from your camera angle, but if I look at this end here, the difference between the two is about 3.5 inches, maybe something like that. And I've actually raised this 4.5 inches, so it's almost going to completely put it back to the stock caster angle. It's going to be really close, maybe off a little bit, but anyway, I'm going to go ahead and press these the rest of the way in. But there it is, my first radius arm ready to reinstall. Now I just have to press these out, reverse the process. I'm going to put the studs up through these ones, and then make both tail ends line up, and then they'll both be at the same angle. That's what's coming next. So, the radius arms, new bushings, caster corrected, installed, and one more thing checked off the list. A few more things to do up on it tomorrow, like put the sway bar back on, get it cleaned up first, and tighten all the nuts and bolts, and then we'll put this one in the done pile. It's brake lines time. G-Wagon has 3 brake lines up front, 1 for the locker, 2 for the right and the left brake lines. The back has 5. It has locker, right and left, and then another right and left out farther. So anyway, lots of brake lines to replace. We'll get on that too. All right, you can see I pretty much finished up with most of the front suspension work. I've got the caster correction bushings loaded in there, some bright green zombie paint. I extended my track bar here, so that compensates for the raise, because when you raise it up, of course, it shifts the whole front end over. So I cut and lengthened that by 1/4 inch, which recentered the axle in the vehicle. Got our new springs, got our spacers, got our king shocks on. Everything on this front end is ready to go, with the exception of once again, the limiting strap. So I've got to put limiting straps so if this goes airborne, that whole weight of this front axle is yanking down on those shocks. You're doing that over and over and over again through the course of a race. You can end up destroy a set of shocks. So I'm gonna put some limiting straps on here, and that's the next piece that I'm working on. So, wow, it's coming along. A lot more to do, but you know, race is not gonna wait for us. It's called applying the zombie. Paint's dry. Now it's ready to go ahead and put these in. So I'm going to bolt these in right up here. And this is the cradle where our shock reservoirs are going to end up mounting. So let's get to bolting. Boom! Right, so get this thing stuffed up in here. All right, so let me show you what we're up to today. Getting ready to make the limiting straps, and limiting straps are keeping from overextending the suspension. And so I have made up some brackets here, and holy cow, earthquake! Anyway, I'm going to be welding those on right here. So the limiting strap is going to bolt on here and then come down to the large bolt on the control arm. And hopefully that'll give us the limitations. I'll keep showing you what this is going along, but I think this is pretty much going to end this segment of the video. On the next one, I'll finish up the rest of the suspension stuff, get these limiting straps on, and once again, try to re-tackle my window nets. Failed miserable first time through. I'll have round 2 coming up on the next video. So thanks for watching, and thanks for the support.